weird, fun little side note before we like officially like start or whatever, or maybe this will be in. But you're talking about New York, and it makes me think my niece called me this morning, and she's like, Netflix wants to film in our apartment, and I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, the TV show the stalker TV thing. I'm like, I don't watch it, but I've heard of it. And she's like, they put out this like paper on my street, and it was like, please contact us if anybody on the street in the West Village like is interested or whatever. And she's like, I got a hold of them. I showed them pictures. They like it. I'm meeting like with one of the people in like a week. And then I like was put in this like, I hate being in this position where I'm like, okay, well, we're renters. We're not owners. So we definitely don't have permission to bring like film crews parked outside the building, coming into the apartment, disturbing other neighbors. So we don't have the say. So I have to contact like my property management. And I just like felt this push and pull of like my 21-year-old niece and all of her excitement of being like, I'm going to be on our apartment's forever going to be on this show that I think is really fun and cool. And me being like the realist, like coming across like cynical, being like, okay, it probably won't happen. And then if it does happen, I know they're saying they're going to compensate you, but legally they probably can't compensate you. All that money's probably going to go to the owners of the buildings, and I'll start reaching out, but I wouldn't get too excited. And then I was like thinking about it. I was like, what's it say about me? Like, I can probably do all of these steps to figure out whether or not her apartment can be on Netflix without having to like preface it with all of this like, you know, energy. It's like sometimes maybe I could just let her be like hyped and have hope while things in the background. I know that's random, but it's just something I was thinking about today.
I think it comes up a lot in entrepreneurship too. It's like you can take two avenues or you can respond to ideas in two different ways, and I'm like guilty of responding both ways as well, where sometimes I'm like gung-ho, and then other times it's like I will just get into this negative spiral. So I think it's very much
and I think
I'm really glad you said that. Oh no,
yeah,
please, keep going.
And I think that's a lot of like being co-founders too, is like we have to balance each other out, and it's really important to find somebody who is capable of wearing both hats, because you don't want to have like baseless optimism that's like, oh yeah, everything's gonna be fine, and you don't have to prep for scenarios where it doesn't go fine. But you need to have both. You need to have somebody who's like, actually, like, we're going to be as successful as we put the effort in. And then somebody else who's like, okay, we need to also prep for those scenarios that might go wrong, just to set the right expectations too.
I hadn't thought of it this way before, but it's almost like you and I have started to function like different muscle groups. Like if you're leg day one day, I'm like abs and arm, upper body the next. Like in the way that like we can't tire both of us out at the same time. And so like one of us always has to be positive.
Yeah.
And hopefully both of us are, but like entrepreneurship is hard. So like that metaphor just came to me.
This is perfect timing, because we've actually this weekend we were traveling. We traveled to Austin to attend this media conference, and it was one of the first times that Priyanka and I got like removed from our ecosystem in LA, time to just purely think about our entrepreneurship journey so far and where we want to head next. And I think that balance came up a lot, so that's something we could talk about too.
Yeah.
Oh, this is where we have to start. This is absolutely. I got to keep all the weird Netflix stuff in now. Like I just can't. Well, actually, here, just why don't you introduce yourselves? Andrew, who you guys have never met, who's been excited to meet you, and just tell us briefly what it is that you guys are working on.
Yeah. So my name is Priyanka, and this is
Chirasmita.
And we're the founders of Zero Proofed. We're also sisters. For anyone that's wondering, I'm the older one, Priyanka.
Priyanka's 4.5 years older than me, but we say that we're growing together in everything we do. So
it's been a fun journey to become from sisters to truly like best friends to now business partners. Like I think it's been a really cool trajectory for us, and it's been really fun for our family to see, and also foster and nurture and things like that. So Zero Proofed is a non-alcoholic cocktail experience company in LA, and we started Zero Proofed on the mission for conscious connection. So creating spaces places and times where people can actually come and connect in person mindfully and be there for that in that moment. So yeah, it's been a fun
It's
ride.
crazy you say that because I'm actually right now I'm drinking a non-alcoholic cocktail. I ordered this kit from this cool startup, and they sent me like everything I need. So they sent me this like how to make it, right? They gave me like this blood orange syrup cordial, which is like super bougie. Check out this like not it looks like liquor, but it's not liquor. Like whoever's curating this killed it, right? So I got this like faux liquor that I put in. I got this. Check this out, Andrew. I got this like red salt that I could put for like my like little like margarita action around the rim, and then like I love grapefruit, like a sparkling grapefruit seltzer. But like, how luxury is that? That's like absolute luxury. And then I put it all together, and I'm not good at putting stuff together. Like I'm not even like trying to be self-deprecating. Like I'm not good at it, but I did it. And I'm just gonna show it to you guys. I even got like a dehydrated orange from this company that's like sitting on top. Look at that color, right? And I got the salt on the thing. I'm just
Looks
gonna take a drink of this real
beautiful.
quick.
I am
Anyway, the
I'm
name of the
definitely
company
jealous.
is Zero Proof, so that's you guys. You guys sent me this amazing kit.
Yep.
Wow.
Yes.
That's wild.
Thank you
Yeah.
for
Okay.
supporting us and trying out the experience at home.
Yeah.
Seriously though, just 10 out of 10. You guys, it was so fun. These brands are amazing. And I just can't get over the color, which I don't know if it's going to come through on camera, but I don't really care. But I'm like so
Yeah, it's
happy.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's like a beautiful sunset orange.
And you got the
And
rim.
it's actually delicious.
That's the hardest part. The rimming is
Yeah, good job.
If you would have seen me doing it, because I've never done that before. So I'm like, it's time to meet them and have a cool conversation. I'm running late. I'm on YouTube. How to salt the rim with the glass. And then I see the thing, and I had already filled up my. This is just like this is actually a really transparent view of like how my brain works and how clumsy and like how I don't think things through all the way. I filled up my glass with ice. And then I'm like, well, what do I do? I'm like, I found a bowl. So I put a bunch of the salt in the bowl, and then I like took the glass and put it and started rubbing it. And then all the ice came out because of course it did because it's upside down. So then the ice is sticking to all the salts. The salt's disappearing, and I'm like, trying to move it around, and at the same time like trying to get the computer to start.
Listen,
no.
Charlie, you are not alone in that, and that's actually something that Priyanka and I have thought through. Is like, you know what, we need to actually walk through it step by step, because this kit is really, especially for somebody who doesn't make cocktails at home regularly, like it's a preview into this world of mixology, whether it's alcoholic or non-alcoholic. Maybe some people haven't experienced with this kind of craft ever, so we are taking it on ourselves to be like, let's build a full end-to-end video demonstration where somebody can learn, okay, I want to learn how to rim my glass. Ooh, I want to make a cool shape with it. Like, how can we actually make it an end-to-end experience?
Yeah.
So
It's actually on our whiteboard right here.
I
Love it.
Yeah, the moment we have some more bandwidth, we're probably gonna redo that like whole customer experience. The whole goal with these cocktail kits is like so that we can extend our community farther than where we can physically be.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, that's Southern California and Colorado. We've popped up in Colorado, but like we want to go beyond that and like actually extend the community though, and that I think goes farther than just sending a box and tools to make something, but also like a welcome. And I think we could do that through like videos and everything else this current day and age.
And nowadays, video content, yeah, you can do these amazing clips of doing it. So great. Andrew is a chef, and he's also now he's like working for this awesome farm, and he's in
So
Nashville, and he's one of my favorite people ever. And I think he has a drink too. So I think we should maybe have our first little cheers. Andrew, can you tell me what you're drinking?
Yeah, so it's called Mingle. It's a blood orange elderflower mimosa.
yeah.
So 0%. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
The founders of Mingle are awesome too.
right. So I've actually never had this
They know
one.
the space, Andrew.
Yeah, but like the other ones that you guys had mentioned, Recess and a couple of the other brands, I actually have here as well. But I figured I'd try this one since I've never had it and see what we got going on.
Pop it open. What are you guys drinking?
So we are drinking, it's a margarita made actually by the same brand as that C-word spirit that you have, Charlie, Pentire. So they also made, they jarred a margarita blend using their, I think, Adrift and C-word.
Yeah, they have a blend of Adrift and Seaward.
Yeah.
And this company Pentire, they're actually from coastal England. And it was started by this, the founder are surfers actually in coastal England, and just like super wellness minded, wellness oriented, and like saw that they were reaching for a beer when they were going surfing, but wanted to feel great doing it. So really just wanted to have other options. So we really resonate with the founders, and that's like one of the benefits of being so early in this industry is we actually just get coffee with the founder of this company all the time, and just hear more about like the intention that he's bringing into this NA brand, and like the target audience for this brand is really people that are looking for options to vary up their drinking, even like and just ways that you can socialize without having to consume alcohol all the time. So it's interesting.
I was just going to share one more that I bought in case I was worried I didn't have the time or energy to make a cocktail, but it turns out it really didn't take that much time to put together what you guys sent me.
Good.
I thought the branding of this was so cool, and I was curious if you guys had seen them. For people that are listening,
Parch is pretty cool.
It's called Parch, Prickly Paloma, and it looks so beautiful, and I'm excited about trying that as well. Well, I'd love for you guys to learn a little bit more about kind of our background with the interest in this topic, because it's really cool because Andrew and I both are deeply interested in this space. And I also just want to say, I'm curious how everything tastes. So, Andrew, how is what you're drinking?
It's good. It's not super sweet, which I always get worried about when it comes to canned beverages. But the elderflower in it's fantastic. It's a super nice floral note at the end that I would definitely drink this again for sure.
Awesome. I'm getting this feeling that I used to get when I lived in New York and I had a couple friends that were doing stand-up comedy. Please come to my show. And I really stopped going because like going and seeing these really small starter shows at 6:30 with 15 people in the crowd, and seeing somebody like bomb was just like I had so much cringe. It hurt so much. And I'd like to think I've grown a lot since then, and I wouldn't like try to like feel those feelings for them. But I remember this feeling that sometimes when you have friends that are like creating a product or going on stage, doing something really vulnerable, the greatest gift they can give you is that they kill it on stage, or that their thing that they're really passionate about is really great, because then you don't have to like lie to their faces about whether or not you enjoyed it. And that's like the really long way of saying like, this is actually really fucking good. Like,
are you sure?
I promise. Because I would just avoid this little anecdote that I'm sharing, and I'd use it for some other podcast or something, and I would just go, well, tell us more about this or that, and I would like kind of take drinks of it and put my face over to the side. But I'm like actually really glad that this turned out the way it did. It's complex. It's definitely not too sweet, but it's definitely not too bitter, and the salt is like really making every drink like that much more. Like I just keep coming back to it. So I'm just going to hear that up on the blood orange Paloma, and you guys are selling how many? Is there like one or two other kits that are available on the website?
Yep, so we have a total of 3. The other 2 are a ginger pear mule, so that one's got actual pear puree in it to get like a full body texture. Also not too sweet. We prioritize creating experiences that are low calorie, low sugar, because we want you to be able to enjoy the actual flavors that come through and not just be hit with an overwhelming amount of sugar, like you said, Andrew.
Yeah, because sugar crashes are also real, and sugar hangovers as well.
Yeah. So. And then the second one is a spicy mango margarita. That's my personal favorite. It's a really beautiful blend of the sweetness of the mango with the bitterness of the blood orange. We have the blood orange cordial in that one as well, actually, and it really balances those flavors while getting the classic flavors of lime and orange of the margarita too. So,
and we have some jalapeno for those that like the spice. The kick.
And then it has a little tiny tahini bottle in there, which I love to have that same ribbing experience. So yeah.
But yeah.
So yeah, I just want to do one thing, but it'll take some time, but I think it'll be enjoyable, which is I think we're all going to come from different backgrounds of being interested in what's blowing up in this scene, because it really is. I went to the grocery store nearest me called like Lazy Acres. It felt like Erewhon. It was like
I love that place.
I felt like a better person being in there. Oh my god, it was so beautiful. It was expensive, but it was.
I've been to the one in Santa Barbara, and we actually just went for like to get some beverages on a family trip, and we got all these juices from there. They were so expensive, but so good.
But they had this whole display for everything that's happening in the non-alcoholic space.
Yeah,
all these options. It was so great. So Andrew, up to you if you want to lead, or if you want me to start, or if you prefer to hear.
No, jump in, man.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll go because mine's probably the simplest. I'm going to guess because you guys are actually starting a company in the space. I'm just one of your potential consumers, or I guess I already am because I bought this. So
Woo!
I would
Cheers to
say
that.
I think I'm probably like a lot of people. I lived in New York. New York is incredibly heavy drinking culture. Throughout my 20s, I was there, going on lots of dates, hanging out with friends, like the bars, and then speakeasies or even like great restaurants. It's got to try the cocktails, and then you're walking everywhere. So there's definitely never even like thoughts about having to drive inebriated or be worried about that. So I drink a lot, and when I moved to LA 2.5 years ago, I just sort of like it just sort of kind of stopped. But I didn't have some like moment, it just kind of like lessened. And I think part of it is I am I do get really anxious about driving while I'm drinking. It is like a real thing that I do not like, and so I never really want to put myself in that position. So I think that really helps living in LA. You have to drive everywhere.
Yeah.
But also, and I'll share this as my big anecdote. I had this one this one date before I met like the love of my life, who you guys have met, Kat. Before I met her, like right before I met her, I went on this date where we were just gonna go to like a park or go to a bookstore or something. And like the night of the date, they like messaged me and they're like, "Hey, could we do this hotel instead in Pasadena?" And I'm just like very open to whatever. And I like look it on Google, like this is like a beautiful hotel. I don't really know Pasadena, so let's go. And show up. She got there like 30 minutes earlier than the time, and I was like, oh, maybe she's just like that. That's fine. That's cool. And she's drinking, and she had like finished her first cocktail, and she's like, do you want one? It's really good. And I was like, I mean, yeah, sure. Like I don't even know what it is. I'll just order it. And then she's like, I'm not really hungry. Do you want to share something? I'm like, oh, I'll get a cheeseburger. Anyway, we both have I have two of what she had. She has her one extra one. So basically we had four or whatever she was drinking. And they bring the bill. This is told without exaggeration of the money, because the actual number is crazy enough. It does not need to be exaggerated. My total bill was like $750 for those four cocktails and the cheeseburger. And I did, like what anybody would do, like a triple take, right?
Oh my
Like not
goodness.
even a double take, but like a triple take. Like they made a mistake is my first thought. And I
Yeah.
start to say that
Wow.
out loud. And this is also, I've really worked on people pleasing, and I've worked on like learning how to like not just say whatever and to back away from conflict. But at the
Yeah,
time,
stand your
still maybe
ground.
new to learning those things. So I like wanted to play it cool as if I wasn't like shocked, right? Whereas like
Yeah.
leave now, I'd be like, what did we order? And so I'm just like, wow. So what were we drinking? It must have been some good stuff, right? And she's like, yeah, it's this like tequila that you can't like find anywhere, that just like one shot of it is like, $100-something.
Oh my
whatever.
Oh
goodness.
my god.
And so like
That's-
she knew, and she's like, if I drink any other tequila, I get a headache. And I wish I would have said it, but I wanted to be like, maybe you just shouldn't drink any tequila. If the only tequila
Wow.
you can drink is this
Not
really
the
How
tequila.
did you contain yourself?
Oh my
Like,
goodness.
That takes a lot of control.
Yeah, but I'm not sure it should have. Like that's the funny thing about like when you learn about yourself, right?
Mhm.
I played it cool, whatever, whether it was I wanted to like seem masculine, or I wanted to seem unbothered, or I didn't want to seem embarrassed, whatever. It's a first date. And otherwise, we had good conversation. There wasn't any red flags in the conversation. It was just a really expensive drink that I just remember feeling like gutted. And of course they didn't even do like the fake look, like go for my purse move. It was all like I was going to pay for everything. And I remember leaving, and on the drive home, like I like woke up, like I got out of like the shock of it, and I was like deeply angry and frustrated, and be like, how do you not tell somebody that it's going to be that much? And then I was like, for the rest of my life, I will always ask, like, oh, so what is that? Like, what is she having? Like, actually tell me what the thing is that I'm about to order before I just say
Right.
I'll have what they're having. Because it is actually turns out it's not super, suave and savvy and cool to always just be like, oh, I'll just have what they're having. It's no big deal. Whatever she's drinking, I'll drink that too. So I'm not going to say that's the reason I barely drink anymore, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a part of the reason I barely drink anymore. But in truth, I know it's a really long backstory for me, but in truth, I like that LA has kind of less of a drinking culture. I like that sometimes it can be true that California's 10 or 15 years ahead of the rest of the country on certain trends. And that's what I hope for this, because I sleep better. I feel better in my body, so much better the next day. And I noticed as I got into my 30s that drinking was really affecting me, especially the more I like learned to like listen to my body, which was something I would have rolled my eyes at when I was younger. But you even mentioned earlier, like sugar crashes are real.
Yeah.
It's like something I've only learned like in the last 2 years, even though I've been told that for 10 or 15 years. I only
Yeah.
started to realize, like, you have this ability to actually listen to your mind, your stomach, your body, your energy. Like, it's a skill and it has to be worked on. But then, like, when you put certain things in your body, you have this crazy opportunity to kind of learn what's working, what's not, and what effect is it, and is it worth it. So I'll have a drink from time to time now, but I cannot believe how satisfied I've been by this like burgeoning scene of interesting, cool things that are coming out, and how I'm much happier to have like something that's like kind of complicated and has like a bitterness or has like a bite to it. It makes me feel like I'm like having a drink without any of the effects to my body later. So anyway, I love what you guys are doing, and that's a little bit of my backstory. Is I think some other people will relate to is that sometimes you just kind of fall off because you just realize how much you don't feel well. And then Andrew, I'd love for you, if you want to go, if you want them to go first too, but I'd love to hear from both of you your kind of background into this industry.
Yeah, you guys want to go ahead or?
Go for it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I actually stopped drinking 100% 9+ years ago. So my journey into the spirit-free world was not something that I did for health or for any reason other than I was trying to find a solution to a problem. But what I did like about it and what was really frustrating, what I do like about it now, and what was really frustrating about it when I started was like, going out to eat's been a huge part of my life since, I got into culinary school when I was 19 years old and up until the last 20 years. But getting a mocktail 9 years ago was, whatever fruit juice we have, we'll mix it together and you get the sugar bomb. We'll throw a Marciano cherry in it or maraschino, and everybody's happy. And I'm like, I don't want that. Like, that does not complement the food. It doesn't taste good. To your point, you feel like crap after you drink them. So then I was like, okay, well, maybe there's something coming. Maybe there's these different things. Like, I remember the first time a rep ever came into one of our restaurants pitching, hey, we've got these NA spirit adjacent type things for cocktails. And they brought in Seedlip, and he made me a gin and tonic with the Seedlip Garden and actually put snow peas in it. And I was like, what do you do put snow peas in a drink with tonic? Like, and it was incredible. It blew my mind. I was like, this is amazing. And then that kind of started that journey for me. It's like, okay, I'm going to start exploring beyond the, like, here's a Bush in a beer that, if I wanted to go out with my buddies, it's the only thing that was available other than soda water.
Right.
So it's always been this like evolution. And like over the last 5 years, I've seen this space just really come alive. And for me, it's awesome because it gives me an opportunity to drink something other than sugar water when I'm out to dinner. But the only time this is really like, the NA world has really kind of like scared me is I was actually in Louisville at this bourbon bar, and this guy's like, hey, I'm going to make you this amazing bourbon drink. We have these NA spirits. Everything's going to be great. And I was like, okay, cool, man. Like, that's the one thing that I've missed from drinking is like really good bourbon cocktails.
Yeah.
So he makes it with a spirit, but the spirit that they were using, or the NA spirit that they were using, actually is infused with pepper and ginger. So you still get the burn.
Yeah.
And it freaked me out so bad because I was not expecting it that I went back to the bar and I was like, you need to make another one and I'm watching you make it.
Yeah.
And he was like, what?
There.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, I need to watch you make this and I'm not drinking this one anymore. I'll pay for it, but I'm not drinking it. And I want to watch you make it. And then I watched him and he actually poured me a little bit of that actual NA spirit. And I was like, this is too close. This is too close. Like, this is, for me, it was scary how close it was. And I was like, I can't do that. Like, I'm just going to go back
I
to
can like feel your heart, like kind of like
pumping.
Right.
Oh, it terrified me because I was like, it's been at this point, it was 8.5 years at that point since I'd had a drink. And I was like, I just took a big swig of this drink and feels pretty spot on to what I remember. And, but all that to be said, it's incredible because not every NA spirit is designed for somebody who doesn't drink. They're designed for people, as you were saying, that want to live a better lifestyle. Maybe they don't want to have that hangover, that cloud, and they want to still be present in the moment when they talk. And for them, I can imagine that that's a great benefit to that drink is that you still get that feeling. It gives you that warmth that you get when you take a drink of alcohol. And it was, for me, it was too much. It was very startling, but it was a cool evolution in that world. And now I've really found the avenue that I like and that I pursue in the NA spirit world. And I'm just super grateful that there's a ton of options, and I'm excited to get some of the kits in from you all. That the Blood Orange Paloma kit looks incredible. I'm excited to try it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that is so powerful to hear. And I think that speaks so much to the culture we're trying to build at Zero Proof, that there is an option for everyone. There is a spirit option that is like the alcoholic real deal version, that you get that bite to your throat. You like you get a little startled, like, oh my goodness, are you positive this is 0% ABV? Because they've managed to replicate that experience so well with herbs, botanicals, other flavors. But then there's the person who's like, that's actually not what I'm comfortable with. I don't want to taste that, but I want to have an experience that's still sophisticated. That's not just juice and like a Shirley Temple. And that's what we do at Zero Proof with our bar, is like, there's an option for every type of drinker. And that's what we say. We're taking back the word drinking, because we're allowed to have those experiences even if they don't have any alcohol. So that's really powerful that you've seen that in your evolution as well.
Yeah, and Andrew, I would love to hear like more about your mixology journey, because for us it's been like the amount of like creativity you can get into without ethanol in the cocktail is actually incredible. And the more we do it, the more we're learning about the science of mixology, and like trying to create texture and retain sweetness in like the natural sweetness in ingredients and things like that. Like I made what did I make last night?
Bee's knees.
I made a bee's knees with a Free Spirits gin. And that one does have a bite at the end. And lemon juice and aquafaba and a little bit of honey. And I realized like you actually don't need to put that much honey in, because you can actually get a lot of sweetness from the lemon.
Right.
And that like just, and it offsets the amount of sugar that you're intaking. And a lot of times for our more wellness oriented community, like the fact that you can lower the sugar and like the caloric intake of the alcohol isn't there, like it ends up just being like this like net positive.
Yeah.
Something you can hold in your hand, something you enjoy, and something that doesn't add a bunch of things that will make you feel bad later.
Yeah. And especially as people are diving more into their health and being way more conscious of the ingredients they're putting in their body, like that's the most important thing ever, is right, giving people the right and the opportunity to know exactly what's going on in their body, and to know that it's better for them. And that's why we see such an opportunity, even as the market keeps growing, and even as there's more pop-ups that are popping up that are creating that community. There's so much amplification to be done of like the non-alcoholic experience only adds to your life by giving you those opportunities to ingest a liquid that is actually better for you, and still gives you that social lubricant or that experience of holding something, and not putting you at the kids' table, making you included in the conversation.
So I've never taken a formal mixology class, but I took a wines class at Cornell, and they do this like they have the hotel school there, so like the culinary arts, mixology, viticulture, really serious there. So I got to build a lot of relationships and connections in that world, because I guess I was drawn to it while I was an engineer. So I didn't have I never really pursued that art, but like I was really drawn to it. So I spent a lot of time at the hotel school. That's basically why I was talking about that. But just like the ability to create a different category and a different experience with beverages is just really, it's a new space, I think, that we've dove into. But I think what originally inspired us was our grandmother actually ended up making these like non-alcoholic fermented drinks for us as we were kids, for like I think they were good for digestion. I don't know, but I called them Lalo juice. It was like a lemonade, very sweet. But like, she started playing with different fruits and different vegetables and fermenting it and making these different flavors, and that kind of got ingrained within us. So like when we were young, we'd always toast with adults with different beverages. We just thought like that was a normal thing. You always join the toast, and toasting is for fun celebrations. And because of that, we like have just grown to appreciate the non-alcoholic beverage so much and give it so much importance that when I went to college and realized like actually like people tend to overlook that, and like alcohol is way more important and governs all of society, all of culture. I was so surprised. Like it was a major culture shock for me, just like I don't know, becoming an adult, being college age and like realizing like there are new rules, and like the way you pick out your wine at your business meeting is something that tells
a statement about who you are. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was a journey that made me realize like, oh, like non-alcoholic beverages and non-alcoholic cocktails don't have a real seat at the adults table, and that really motivated me to figure out what that seat can be, and experiment with that.
I love that so much, and this I want to get back to you. I just had this idea. My niece Eden, who probably at the time was like 7, and I was living with them for a summer with my sister and her 4 kids, and I love them. And I love to cheers. I just like always love to cheers and say a toast or do whatever, just have fun. And like the frustration and heartbreak and anger would be on her face every time, because I would just naturally cheers the adult, and then like I turn and look like after I was done, and she's like holding her like ginger ale or whatever out, and she's like looking at me insistently, and I'm like okay, and then I would like got into this pattern of redoing it to like like imagining that. I think that's actually a really cute detail that you guys were involved in the cheers.
Yeah. And it, honestly, like I remember always getting excited about like every time we'd go down the juice aisle, because that was what the options were at the time. Like anytime there was something new, would be like let's grab that and try it. Like that exploration and curiosity has always been there, and now it's just we're allowed to help write this new industry. And bring so much of that serendipity and excitement that we felt as kids when we were discovering a new option. But now our palates have changed, and we're looking for that adult experience with it.
And like our palates have changed, like what we can ingest has changed. Like we went to a wellness cocktail hour the other week. Actually, it was just Friday night. And we were at a bar, and it was a wellness cocktail hour. So we're like, they probably have something. We left our bitters at home, and we were offered a Shirley Temple or water. And it just like, for me, I didn't even imagine walking into that group, like that sort of cocktail hour, and like being offered a Shirley Temple, because it's like, it's just something that I just don't even think of it. Like it's like a children's drink, and it's not healthy.
Yeah.
So no, it's an honor and a privilege, and I guess it gets back to like the whole like you don't experience FOMO when you know you have like a dignified thing that you enjoy.
Yes.
Well said.
I just think it's crazy to me that you guys had that inclusion at such a young age. So like seeing the opposite side of it was like culture shock to you, whereas I was the exact opposite of that. There was nobody was inclusive at all when I was a kid. It was like, oh, you want a cheers? Here's a beer. You want a cheers? Here's champagne. So like drinking from like my journey with alcohol started at 4 years old. The first time I ever consumed alcohol in a large quantity, I was 4 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, I convinced my babysitter, who could read English, she could speak English, could read English, that the juice in the bottom of the fridge, the Sea Breeze Fuzzy Navels, were special juices, and if I was good, I could have them. And I swindled her into drinking about 4 of them.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
But it's like alcohol's been a huge part of my life, my upbringing, everything. So like when I made that switch, for me, I'm assuming it was very similar to what you guys were like when you walked in and were like, hold up, wait a second, there's no options. There's none of it. Like for me, I was like, holy shit, there are options. Like this is crazy. There's something that exists in this world that's not just, the Shirley Temple side of things. But the other side of this whole weird world, that especially where I'm at in the South. I mean, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, and we are the country music capital of the world. And you do not have country music without ice cold beer. Like they do not exist apart from each other. But the fun thing about where this whole thing is kind of coming to a head is that you have people that are making stuff in that space that is accessible. It's not just accessible, but the packaging is very inclusive. I think about the guys at Liquid Death and what they did with those canned waters.
Yeah.
You have one of those at a bar, you don't feel other. You don't feel left out.
Yes.
You don't feel like you're not included in what's happening. And for me, that was always the big thing. It's like, what do I do when I get out of work to lower my shoulders, to grab a drink? And for the longest time, there was like 3 NA beers, which was like O'Doul's, Moosehead NA, and Bush NA, which
Yep.
hats off to them for having it 15 years ago. But to your point, as you get older, your taste change. You want something that's more complex. You want something that you can have that's not just a sugar bomb or not just a watered down version of a crappy beer that somebody decided to remove the alcohol. And the first time I ever experienced that, I was at a tasting menu, and this guy created an entire pairing. It was like 18 courses. Each course had a pairing. And he asked me at the beginning, he's like, what's the one thing you miss about drinking? And I was like, man, like I loved a good stout beer. And he was like, cool, I'm going to make something for you. Don't even worry about it. And while I'm there, he created this, like, he took black tea and then steeped that with barley and like a different type of malt and created this. And he actually charged it in an ISI charger and poured it into a glass. And it was like drinking a stout beer that he made for me right there. So it was like, I see people all the time who have that experience with cocktails. It's like, oh man, I had this great cocktail when I was in Europe. It had X, Y, and Z in it. The bartender's like, dude, I got you. No worries. Boom, boom, boom. But then for me, I was like, I'm never going to experience that. And then this guy did that for me.
Wow.
And it's like, and not only was it delicious, but it paired so perfectly with the meal that I was like, there's actually way more opportunity in that space than there is in any other space, in my opinion, in zero proof, because you're not limited to the flavor of the actual spirit itself, which is so prominent. You can taste all of the inclusions that you add to it. And it's like, that opens up the entire world of tastings and pairings. And like, you can really curate something that's just incredible without having that barrier of that boozy, strong, punchy flavor in it. And I'm just blown away. And I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about that. Like, have you guys looked at doing anything in that space? Like, hey, how do we pair the Paloma that Charlie had with like a great snack or a great something to like bridge the gap and show people that there's more to it than just an alternative for social, but there's actually a way to enhance what you're eating.
Yeah.
Leverage together. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we actually looked into that experience because we realized that there was that gap that we love cuisine as well. We love getting the opportunity to build on different flavor profiles, and a lot of that we will mix with our mixology as well. And we recognize that was a large part of why people drink cocktails in their household or out. They're trying to create that experience of getting the food and the pairing together. So we actually hosted a couple cocktail classes. I'll let you talk about
with
that.
like cocktail classes where you learn about the food pairing element as well, and try to chase the spirits or like the most prominent bases in the cocktail and pair them with different foods. And then we have been talking to a local friend and chef about creating a zero proofed dinner food pairing night. We're working on that, but we're very interested in making that happen. One of my most memorable culinary experiences, we need a little backstory. Both Mita and I are vegetarian, so I already have some dietary restrictions, and like having a pre-fee meal was nearly impossible maybe like 10 years ago because of that. And there were just no options. And then on top of that, like, you also can't necessarily take your whole family out to a pre-fee meal because like you miss like the food, the drink pairing element of it. So I remember 10 years ago, I had just landed my first job. And I wanted to take my family out to dinner, and I'm the oldest. So both my sister and my brother were underage. And I found this restaurant. It's called Harvest Beat in Seattle. And they had a vegan menu with non-alcoholic elixir pairings. And they had 7 different pairings for each of these like foods. And it was like the most inclusive restaurant we'd ever been to. And it was just so fun that like the whole family, like I could treat the whole family to like like toasting on my like first job. I think we were celebrating my move to LA for like Disney or something. No, I'm not sure what it was.
I think it was
like,
when you first worked for Disney Technologies. Yeah, it was like the first big girl job, big girl internship maybe, and it was
like a huge memory, and like that sort of thing, like sharing food and drink together and being able to talk about it with different people of different walks of life and everything, I think is something that like that is our mission. And like we've started to see that happening, like different people of different walks of life, like meshing together in some of our events. Like the silent disco was one where we had like all ages from like we didn't even ID, so I'm sure we had like some 18-year-olds all the way to like
mid-60s.
People in their mid-60s, maybe older, like just dancing and talking together, drinking together, and it was just amazing. Yeah,
I love it. I love those kind of events. It's so great. Okay, well, I'm now just curious for all of us to go 2 years in the future, 5 years, 10 years, 20, I don't care. And let's just all like speak into existence what we want. And mine's really selfish because I love this artist, and I thought of it because we were talking about Nashville and country music being so tied into it. But you know, Casey Musgraves just like killed it with this Deeper Well album, right? And talking about how she stopped smoking and like was like really vulnerable about that part of her life and like in the song. So like, why can't we just speak into existence that she partners with Zero Proof? So Casey, I know you're going to be watching this. I just think it'd be a great opportunity for you to have a co-branding opportunity with Zero Proof and come out with some type of, you know, maybe it's a bourbon, whiskey, country music flavor. Maybe it's a beer. I don't know. But I'm going to speak that to existence. I would love to be able to see you guys work, and then maybe just have like my own little meet and greet with her as well and tell her how much I appreciate her music.
Definitely. Yes. As our connector, of course.
Yeah.
I love that. You know, I really hope to see a lot more in the actual restaurant space of the mocktail, the zero proof aspect of it start to come more in line with the food pairing side of it. You know, when you were talking about how inclusive that felt when you found that menu that was vegan that also had the elixir pairing, to me, that's where food's going. And the reason people haven't gotten there yet is because just to be 100% honest, cooking vegetables is much harder than cooking meat. And that's why you don't see a lot of really high-end restaurants that are pushing the boundaries in a vegetable forward area. It's because you can get away with just searing a piece of meat and putting it on the plate and shaving truffles on it, and everybody loses their mind.
Right.
Where with vegetables, to make it substantial, to make it something that's craveable, is a lot more difficult than I think a lot of people give credit to. So when you find somewhere that's great, it's difficult to replicate that. But I hope to see that. I think with 11 Madison Park doing what they've recently done and going 100% vegan, it's already made ripple effects. But I would love to see that train really sort of grab onto Zero Proof. And I would love to see what you guys do in that space, because I think there's a huge barrier for bartenders to bridge that gap. Not because that there's not the tools at their disposal, but I don't think that they found it as accessible in the culture as the people who are wanting the beverage. So like, I don't think they think like, if I go to my bar manager, right, as a bartender, and I'm like, hey, I got this great cocktail idea, there's a lot of excitement behind that. But if you go, hey, I got this great zero proof idea, I don't see, even when I was working in restaurants, I didn't see a lot of bartenders get excited about that. So I would love to see the excitement shift from the consumer to the actual mixologist being excited about the mocktail program, the zero proof program, and start focusing their attention on, hey, this is what we can make with it, not these are the 2 cocktails that are listed on the back of the bottle.
You know what that makes me think of too, and I wonder if this is one of the keys to that future happening, Andrew, is that so you said this earlier, and I was like, oh, okay, it's a different way of thinking about it. That's way more fun. Is that if you're not restricted to the most popular liquors, right, and spirits, then it's as if you're an artist, your canvas just got way bigger. You have way more opportunity of things to pull in and say, did you know that if you drink this specific type of thing and then take a bite of this, it's really good. We don't just have to figure out how to get really, really creative with, you're drinking this vodka, you're having this whiskey, how does these things work? And so then it becomes a world opening up instead of a world restricting or a world that seems adversarial. And I think that's what happens sometimes when people are asking me about, like, you know, I don't drink as much, and they have some friends that still do, is there's either a fear or a sense of adversarialness, fighting for a shared space. Like if Zero Proof gets more popular, then I'm gonna like come for their beer. Like we're gonna come for their guns. We're gonna come for whatever.
Yeah.
Like there's just like this will take. And I think it's kind of silly. It's just actually this idea that nothing's coming. From what I can feel or tell, I don't see any logic. Anything is coming in an adversarial space. That actually the way for it to really be motivated and like exciting, like you said, use the word exciting, is that it's a canvas that's growing. There's like more creative opportunity to get like do more interesting things. And so when I see that expansion instead of like reduction or something coming at the cost of some other industry, it feels like, oh, okay, this is going to happen. I don't know when it's going to really, really blow up, but like this is why it's already starting to happen, I think,
I mean, I think you're 100% right. I mean, the funny thing about where we're at in Nashville is that this is a drinking town, and we actually have a 100% alcohol-free bottle shop now. It's called
Yeah, it's
Killjoy.
Killjoy? Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible, and I go there all the time. I mean, that's where I stock up on most of the stuff that I'm looking for. But it's like 5 years ago that would not have existed in Nashville. Period. I mean, you always had a couple of bottles or a couple of random things at the liquor stores that were there. But for somebody like me, I don't want to walk into a liquor store and be triggered by every single thing that I gave up 9.5 years ago to
Yeah.
get to the very back of the store that they have hidden
In like a dusty corner.
yeah.
Yeah.
But now that it's becoming more a part of the culture, more a part of the commonplace, it's exciting to me to see people who aren't necessarily sober for any other reason than the fact that they just want to be more social and they want to remember what they're doing and be able to connect in a way that's not centered around a mind altering substance. And watching the people, like every time I go in there and I talk to the guy, to the team at Killjoy, seeing the people come in and the questions that they ask and hearing the why they're there, it's so different. And there's so many different walks of life that come through there. It's amazing to me. So I'm very excited to see where this space goes. And I'm excited to hear what you guys think this space is going to do and how you plan
what you
to
want to breathe into existence. And if you can remember two parts, so the responsibility of answering two of these questions. So what you want to breathe into the space, and then also I'd love for you to explain the inspiration behind the tagline of getting your Sundays back, because I think that is such a beautiful and such a great line. I'd love to a little more about that, but please.
Yeah, well, first thing that came to mind, Andrew, before we jumped right into that was I think of it a lot of how when you're like on one street, there could be 5 different bars and they cater their experience to 5 different crowds of people. They aren't necessarily each competing neck and neck for their community. They've built a community around the experience that they offer. And I think not only is non-alcoholic adjacent to that this is a completely new experience for a new community. People can choose from those 5 bars, can choose to experience an NA bar and NA bottle shop, and it's just adding more to their repertoire of options. And then it's also bringing to the table all of the people that have been left out from having the options of going to those 5 bars. So you're only actually adding more and more to the options for everyone across the table. So I think that is what's driving forward this next phase of the NA industry, and also just the conscious connection space.
Yeah, and I think what I would love to see is that there are an abundance of options for people that are looking for alcohol-free options, either like a completely non-alcoholic bar or like other bars that are more inclusive of that aren't as triggering. Like, I guess I'm thinking of it as in Los Angeles right now, if you want to go to an alcohol-free bar, you have to drive to Chinatown, which it's accessible for some, others no. Or you have to find a pop-up. One of them is zero proofed, and you should always come. But they're kind of serendipitous. Like if you're available on the night that the pop-up happens, then maybe you can go socialize with alcohol-free drinks that are good and reliable. Whereas otherwise, if I want to go out to hang out with friends, I end up spending at least an hour or two, and I care about the drinks. I end up spending at least an hour or two trying to find a place that's within the right distance and has alcohol-free cocktails, and they're in stock, because sometimes, or actually the last 5 restaurants I've been to in LA, they're not actually They might list a cocktail on the menu, but they might not. But they haven't been carrying the spirit, or they've run out of it, or it expired, or whatever. So just like being able to go to a bar and like know that there will be a cocktail there. It's kind of like actually vegetarian, like access to vegetarian or vegan food, or like actually a lot of dietary restrictions. Like now I'm confident in LA that I can go to any restaurant and be able to eat something. I did not have that experience like 10 years ago.
So I kind of sold my vision a little short. It should be that Casey Musgraves is funding the two of you to open your own place in LA where
Love
you
that,
can
Yes.
serve the
Thank
food
you, Casey.
and the drinks and create community and like make a neighborhood more vibrant because you guys exist.
Yeah.
Yes.
We are all about expanding and exponentially growing the way we connect consciously. So there's infinite opportunity, and we are just really excited to see where our hard work in this space and where the growth of the space takes us to. So if Casey, if you're listening, actually, since you're listening, let us know if you want to if you want to chat.
Things are cooking. We have like our whole whiteboard here. Like
Yeah.
What
But
else to
yeah.
say? Sundays back. Getting
Yes.
Sundays back.
Yeah.
So
Just checking to see if we have the logo somewhere.
there's a sweatshirt right there. If you
Yeah, I was gonna say some of the swag looks so great on the website. If you had like
Yeah.
the bag or the sweater or whatever.
Yeah, so get your Sundays back. It actually speaks a little bit to the exact origin of Zero Proof.
All right,
While
how would
it
you
was
describe-
like,
wait, you hold it there for a second. It's so great. And then how would you describe it for our podcast only
yeah,
I
so
love it.
listeners?
we've got a merch line of 3 colors of sweatshirts. We have a crew neck that's tan, and then a forest green and a brown colored sweatshirt. On it, we have our slogan, Get Your Sundays Back, and then also the Zero Proof logo. And that's really where
But
our
the typography
community
is kind of fun. It's a little funky. It's
it's groovy.
It's vibrant,
Yeah,
it's great.
it's something that so Get Your Sundays Back actually originated the day we founded Zero Proofed, and it was slightly impulsive a year and a half ago, where Mita and I had just gone to a big work party of mine, and it was the first time that we took NA options to a party at someone else's house, and it was the first time we like shared and enjoyed them, and like it was awesome. People thought that we were they questioned our sobriety.
You're like, we want to have what's in your cup because you two seem to be having more fun than all of us collected.
And it was just such a great time. We got back and went to bed pretty late, but got up early in the morning, or not that early, like 8 or 9 o'clock, and started walking to the farmers market, the local farmers market here.
That's early for me. I just want to say I would 8 a.m.
It's early for us too.
Yeah, it's very early. But we had gotten our Sundays back. Like, we had a great time. We met people. We socialized. We became the life of the party. And then we got up the next morning and like had a walk for ourselves and got to spend time together as sisters. And Mita had just graduated college, so that was rare, like being able to enjoy a Sunday together.
And then it also has that layer of added complexity that like a lot of people, especially Priyanka and I both still work in the corporate world full time, and the Sunday scaries are a very real thing. You have a full weekend of abundance and joy and community, and then you have this Sunday night where you're like, oh, shoot, I have to start working tomorrow at 8 a.m. And that feeling, I think, is definitely amplified by consuming alcohol and that kind of either emotional or physical hangover that happens on Sunday morning after a night out on a Saturday with cocktails. And what we were finding from like hearing other friends, and especially the friends that were out at that party, is like their morning didn't start at 8 a.m. And if it did, it didn't start with the same energy and go-getter mentality that we had that morning of like, we're going to go to the farmer's market and like,
Just
start our
drink
day
some
off. Yeah.
farmers market coffee and eat some fruits.
Yeah. So
no
we
way,
really...
dude. Like hell no. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
right. I can picture exactly where I am. I'm in bed. I'm I feel horrible. My head hurts. My stomach hurts. I keep drinking water because I keep waking up in the middle of the night because I can't get into like a deep sleep. So I just keep waking up in the middle of the night. I keep drinking water, which means I keep needing to pee. I like keep trying to like close more light out and make things like turn on white noise. I then am sleeping in, and I'm like sitting, holding my stomach, having like horrible bowel movements. I'm sorry, it's gross, but it's true. Like just like feeling like I have to like I might edit this out, but I like feel like I have to like shit out my hangover. And then I am like, you know what would be great for this? What I need, like a cure, is I need to like Uber Eats and spend $40 for a Shake Shack burger because then I'll feel better. Which of course, actually, I don't end up feeling better from that. And then my day starts at like 2. Like as far as cognitive function,
Yeah.
whatever. And then on the cool flip side of this, though, to show like I could not resonate more with this is now one of the best things in my life. No joke, is I'm part of a basketball league that plays 8 a.m. on Saturdays.
Oh,
Right?
that's
Amazing.
And I have to wake up at like 7 to drive out there, and it's one of my favorite things, and I would not have been able to do
There you
that
go.
before. And when I was living in Mar Vista, there's the most just unbelievable farmers market I've ever been
Yep.
to. And once again, you have to get there early if you want anything, even to just
Yes.
side anecdote after side anecdote. I'm sorry, but I'm not really that sorry because I want to share the story. Is that there's an egg place there that was like in a documentary, Andrew, and they're all about how their eggs are incredible. And so people show up before it's open, and they have this like rope there, and a guy is on a walkie-talkie, and you can like hear like, all right, let him in 5, and he's like, okay, he's like 5, 4, 3, 2, and then they pull the rope out, and people are not sprinting, but it's like a jog walk thing of all ages. Like I'm talking, even the elderly are, and they are fighting for this line. And it's Kat and I were like, okay, well, first off, it was just so cool to wake up early and feel like you could wake up early and go to the farmers market. Like I think some of my favorite moments with my girlfriend are walking and not feeling miserable walking there. But it took us 4 weeks to get 1 carton of these eggs, and we showed up early every single time because every single time we underestimated how other people were going to cut in front of us, and then we'd get there and they'd be like, I'm sorry, we just sold our last
Oh my
eggs, and
gosh.
now we're talking about eggs.
Horrible.
But the point is, I
Yeah.
a million times over am so glad the trade I've made from laying in bed until 1:30 or whatever, and just feeling horrible and miserable. For now, I've some of my favorite things in my life happen before 12 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just got to do the old line cook hack, man. If not saying I'm encouraging anybody to go back to drinking by any stretch, but
if you were
in that mode and you are constantly trying to figure out why you're you just don't go to sleep. You continue drinking, and then prior to going to work, you drink a half a bottle of Pepto, a big Red Bull, and eat 2 Slim Jims, and you're good for 10 hours of work. I
think
did
my
it for
nervous
years,
system
and
just broke down hearing that. Yeah,
that was.
And that's exactly like I think there's like a precursor to the tagline. It's have your Sunday night and get your Sundays back too. It's this like you can have your Saturday night and get your Sunday back too. And I think that speaks to the entire culture of you really win back so much opportunity and abundance when you make a conscious better for you decision, even just one night, even one Saturday. And so
So the typography was actually just emulating that feeling that we had, and I actually just designed the logo or the typography myself because I had that like feeling. And it just like became a visual for me. Like I got my Sundays back. And it's funny, like this like get your Sundays back slogan has actually translated into so many other applications. One of our friends, actually our community manager, uses it as her like when she gets her Sunday back when football season is over. And I think it's just it's also like this that like reclaiming like your time. And I wish we could do like get your Wednesdays back, and it's just like other ways, but like it's like reclaiming like your time, because your time is yours and it's precious. And like I think too often we drink alcohol or participate in things
to people please,
to please others, but it's yours. Like it's your body, it's your cup, it's like whatever you're drinking is yours, and it's going to affect and influence your time. So however you want to get your Sunday back, like we support it. You get it back. stop giving it away.
I think that's a really kind of a really lovely prompt that you kind of threw out there too, in a way, even if it wasn't direct, which is this idea of if you're, sober curious, or you're even just curious about opening up the canvas for different type of beverages. The world doesn't have to be water, seltzer, alcohol, soda. Like, actually, it's just going to keep getting more interesting. So it doesn't have to just be Coke. It could be some of this other stuff, or Diet Coke. I like this prompt of like, hey, within yourself, nobody else's business. You're allowed to like ask yourself your motivation for ordering whatever you're ordering, because it might come up that it's more because everybody else is, or it might come up that you want to feel a certain way because you don't like the way you're feeling now, and you want to kind of either disassociate or change it, because for some reason you feel uncomfortable and you see it as an escape or whatever. So I know that's like heavy. I'm not a therapist, but I do think there's a prompt there to be thinking like, hey, one of the first steps that could be really like a loving thing to yourself, like a kindness to yourself, is just to kind of listen and think about, whether it's in a social setting or it's by yourself, like try to get comfortable building that listening muscle up of like, why is it that I want whatever this thing is, or why is it that I'm reaching for, whatever it is. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and we also find that like once you do discover that, and if that choice, like if in that reflection you decide, hey, I want to maybe explore more alcohol-free options and just add them to my repertoire, and if you discuss that with your friends, with your community, you might actually discover that a lot of other people were feeling the same way, of like, I actually have been thinking about it and I don't actually want to drink because it makes me feel bad, but I do it because I feel like I'd be alone in deciding not to. Even I think,
or vice versa.
Yeah, or vice versa. Yeah.
But having the conversation just like opens up so many doors.
Yeah.
Now I have friends that will always participate in our Zero Proof events, and still like prefer alcohol in their cup, and that like they just appreciate both sides and both experiences now, and it's pretty cool to see that as well.
Okay, so this is kind of like the last thing I have. We've been talking for over an hour, and so I want to give everybody an opportunity, if there's something Andrew really wanted to ask or talk about, if there's questions that either of you wanted to bring up, or just any sentiment you want to share, like a good time for all of us to have a chance to kind of send whatever it is that we want to say. So for me, it's that I do feel kind of optimistic about the younger generation and their patterns when it comes to like drinking or substances. And I think that it's really cool for me to think. So I was like super Jesus freak, Southern Baptist, really Christian in high school. I didn't even have a girlfriend because I was like, I'm not kidding. I was really inspired by a book that said, I Kissed Dating Goodbye. And it was like pretty much about dating Jesus. And that's like really the title of the book. And I really was like that. And alcohol was absolutely not something that we should do until we were 21, and then maybe not even then. And when I got to college, like, it's wild that the contrast was like icing was a thing now. So like I remember somebody, handing me a Pringles cup, and I opened up the Pringles lid and there was a Smirnoff Ice in it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I had to. You can even see how I use the phrase at 36 years old. I go back and go, I had to get on one knee and like drink the full Smirnoff Ice, and how quickly, and like I was just like, it was a wild culture shift. And
you feel like you had to, like you really did. If you didn't,
sure.
you would be like ostracized.
The first night that I drank in college was actually weird. I was in a study abroad. It was in Austria, because I didn't just start immediately drinking. I didn't drink probably until like a year and a half or 2 years into college. But we were studying abroad, and we were at this bar where it was like €6 for 6 beers, or €6 for 6 shots. And I did not know how to hold my liquor at all, because I did not really drink at all, and just got completely hammered. And to this day, I feel so freaking lucky, because I drank way too much, got way too drunk, got home, and thought that I was like a character in a TV show or in a movie, and just like put my like arms up to like fall into my bed, just to like have this like beautiful collapse, because I felt good, but I also felt like completely out of it. And I hit my head on the bedpost like an inch from my eyeball, like a corner of the post. So I just missed like my actual eye, and I woke up with just like the gnarliest, black eye, and everybody thought that I had gotten into a fight. But I think about these sharp contrasts and these switches, and maybe I'm too optimistic because I don't actually know, but I have a sense that there's that the drinking culture for younger people isn't as influential or as strong as it was for my generation. And I guess that was my last kind of parting thing. So I'm curious if you guys have any thoughts, whether it's you like to research, you like to look at data, or you just have a sense of things as far as generational changes.
We even see differences between Mita and I, because I relate more to the millennial generation. I'm kind of at the cusp, but definitely did not have a lot of smartphone use in high school. So, um, and drinking was still like at the forefront of college culture. Like that's all you did, really. There's nothing else. You got up, you got dressed up, you went for a drink. We would, after the bar, we'd go back to the library, but it was just part of it. And that's what made you cool. And then after that, like even in corporate culture, it was very much like a social standing thing that if you could hold your liquor, especially as a woman in engineering, if you could do that, you're cool. But I think it's different for me to.
Yeah, and I had the privilege of finishing my college during the pandemic, or while the whole pandemic was happening. My last 2 years of college were affected by the pandemic, and I watched the shift happen during those 2 years, because when I first got to college, it was just like that. It was like everyone hands you a bottle, and the amount of shots that people take is associated with how cool they are, and everyone seems to be watching and not even necessarily caring about you, but seeing it as a reflection on themselves. And that was my first 2 years of school. And then by the end, I mean, I started being so outspoken about how the drinking culture was impacting me mentally, especially during the pandemic, where you really had to isolate from everyone. I was taking it super safe, so I was only seeing a group of about 5 people. And to me, the concept of drinking with just 5 people inside an apartment got so old so fast. And it was like, this can't be how we spent our last 2 years together. We can't just be inside drinking every time. Like, how can we actually make sure that our time is spent together in a constructive and fun and healthy environment? So I actually started hosting game nights. And very quickly, like, a lot of people were like, yeah, I'm sick of it. I want to have more fun, but I want to break out of this honestly dangerous cycle of drinking that was happening during the pandemic in college campuses. By the end, a lot of them, once it was safer, we had like 20 people one night that were like, yeah, I want to, like, instead of going to the classic Thursday night bar, like, I want to play Catan with you and your friends, which is really powerful. And I think that kind of sentiment of like, I want to have fun. There's enough things that make me anxious. There's enough things that make me feel depressed. What can I do? What options do I have that don't involve depressants and substances? That sentiment is, I think, taking on like wildfire for Gen Z and Gen A, because they've seen the world deconstruct, and I think have also seen how alcohol plays a role in that. So I think, and I think because of the TikTok generation and, you know, all these different platforms for sharing your opinions, people are a lot more confident in what they believe, and are a little bit more outspoken. So I think taking that generational experience and then also having a platform to talk about it, they're unpacking that. Like, what is it about these last several generations that has caused us to be at a place where we're so disconnected, but seemingly so connected as well? And how can we fix that?
Yeah, I think it actually, yeah, and I think it goes back to, Charlie, you mentioned this at the beginning, where like when you remove alcohol, all of a sudden, like, you just get you get to know your body a lot more, because like you're not interrupting your circadian rhythm and other like hormonal cycles with alcohol. I'm not medically speaking, but I think that's the other thing is like I found that the younger millennial Gen Z generation is getting really in tune with their mental health and like anxiety and things like that, and like are willing to like talk about it and react and respond like vocally, which is something that like I personally, like, even in college and probably in high school, like struggled with like anxiety and depression, but never vocalized it. Like, didn't have the words, didn't have the tools, I didn't even know really what it was. It just happened to some people. But but like it's been incredible to see you and then our younger brother who is actually still in high school like just be so in tune with like emotions that like you can recognize that maybe today alcohol is not a good idea, or maybe like yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
think it's
every day can be
really
different. Yeah.
I really love that answer. Thank you both. I really enjoyed that, and I do think you know, this idea of like in moderation, lowering a certain amount of inhibition can have these positive impacts. And I don't fully disagree with that. But usually when I'm talking to somebody that's kind of giving me that sense of like alcohol is good actually, and here's some of the reasons. One of the things I feel like left out of that sometimes is that it's not the only way to work on lowering some of your anxious inhibitions. It's not the only way to get through to being a little bit more social, or to accessing parts of yourself that you want to see. But it can be helpful for that, and it is known for that. But to me, that's also like it comes with so many other things that are negative, and so many other things
Yeah.
that it can do, that it kind
Hmm.
of deserves like a label like a cigarette pack has on it, of
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, but these things can kind of happen. And I think that I would say that Andrew probably agrees with me, because we both are very outgoing people that love to have great conversation, and I think probably have lower inhibitions socially than most people. But I also have deep pattern with anxiety, and I wanted to drink because I felt like I was the most fun version of myself, and the most like I can get out of my own head and enjoy who I'm being around, and that will have positive impacts on my life. I'll be able to make more friends. I'll be able to have the confidence to go across the bar and talk to that girl. And I think I look back now and I go, man, I attributed too much. I gave too much power to the alcohol for that, because when you start to see it as like the thing that can get you to have like a superpower, it becomes like a necessary thing that's needed for like an alter ego. And the truth is, I think for a lot of people, mostly the truth is like you can access that. It might be harder, but harder is good. Like give me the
Yeah.
Yeah.
hard, because that's the
You're
good shit
working on
to do.
yourself.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
actually exactly what I was going to say is it's not the only way, but for a lot of people it's the easiest way, right? And we actually talk about that. Like when you first go to a zero proof event, you might feel, or like any alcohol free event, or even just like any social experience where you're going solo, you don't know a lot of people, your first reaction might be like, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming. But if you take another step in and you push yourself a little bit more, you encourage yourself to talk to somebody, slowly that breaks down. And it's
And I think that's why like our like alcohol free events are so different. And I guess I never put this together is like you're walking around with everyone else that also made the conscious choice to not drink alcohol. So that pressure of being this other person, like being that alter ego, like you mentioned, is not there. Like you can just be yourself because everyone is showing up as themselves.
yeah,
And
everyone's
that's
making the more challenging choice to not have the liquid courage meaning that.
and I think that's the secret sauce that like really causes people to really socialize and connect at our events. And like
Yeah.
people will mesh and like break up their groups and go introduce themselves with other people. And I think that's really why is because like you don't have to be this alter ego that's really cool and is
It's
slurring their
also
words.
what you're saying too is a really great bid for if you're not in LA, if you're not where there happens to be a serendipitous zero proof outing. You never know if you post on Instagram or post on TikTok or in your group text suggest the idea. You never know how quickly and how easy it might be to get a shared context of other people that want to spend a night together, not drinking but do something else. How many people might be in, and we'll, obviously in the description of our videos and everything, we'll share your socials and people can kind of like look, and see what your events kind of look like and get the vibe for. But I think that that's a really good bid for people as well to be inspired by you if they can't actually come to one. I do want to give each of you, you were so generous with that was my last thing that I had. So I want to hear a little bit extra time to hear from each of you. So Andrew, any last question or sentiments or curiosity or whatever it is before we end?
No, but a second ago when y'all were talking about the generational gap and the differences, for me that's been a very, maybe not difficult is not the word, but it's definitely been a challenge to connect. I think the stigma around mental health has changed a lot in the last 15 years. It's become a lot more open. It's become a lot more accessible in conversation, and especially around alcohol. There's always been this sort of like you're carrying this extra weight with you every time you walk into a room, every time. And then with that being said about drinking, on the opposite side of that, going sober, getting into that world when there's not the option, when there's not the community, when there's not the social support around it, you still carry that same stigma with you. It's like, I don't want to be the downer. I don't want to be the person bringing everybody down because they're going to feel awkward about, can I order a drink at dinner? I can't tell you the first 5 years I was sober how many times people would ask me if we went out to dinner, hey, does it bother you if I have a, and I'm like, no, I don't give a shit at all. Like, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah,
And
just
it's like,
don't talk about it.
yeah. And what I've noticed is that it's always been, and maybe this is just in my experience, but it's always been my older friends or my industry friends, anybody that I've talked to about it who's a lot younger than me or multiple generations separated, they're the fact that I'm even bringing up that there's an issue with it or a stigma, they're like, whoa, hold on. What do you mean there's like, why is there, like, I don't understand any of it.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy to me. Like, I remember going into job interviews and having drinks with my boss during the interview as like, hey, we're going to get to know each other. This is a great place to work. Like, it's, you're going to come work for me. I'm your chef here. I'm going to pour you a scotch. We'll sit down and go through your resume. And I was just like, I could not even imagine doing that today and how that would feel. And it's like that whole world generationally is so much different than when I was a kid and when I was coming up and when I was social. But to your point earlier, like, alcohol was what I call like my optimize Andrew button. It's like, this is fun, Andrew, engage, let's go party. And it was always alcohol was the catalyst for that. So I'm very excited to hear that that's changing and that's shifting and that that's not a part of the day in, day out culture. And I'm really excited that there's people like you two who are bringing that forward, putting that out there and going, hey, let's have a fun way of taking this on and let's take away as much of the stigma as we can. And let's put the fun, let's put the creativity, let's put the engagement back into it without all the bullshit. And I just love it. So I'm super excited that we got to have this conversation, and B, I'm very excited to see what Zero Proof does over the next 5 years. And I cannot wait to see what this collaboration with Miss Casey Musgraves is going to play into.
Can't wait.
And Andrew, it's not rare that Andrew ends up in LA, so maybe our paths will all be able to cross together. It would be
Let's grab some non-alcoholic drinks.
Yeah.
100%.
Or
we can have a pop-up and cook a bunch of food.
Yeah,
please do that.
That would be so fun.
Yeah.
Andrew is incredibly talented chef. Just because I don't think he'll say it, but oh my God.
It'd be an honor.
I did want to say, so our Zero Proof co-founders, obviously, thank you for coming on. But did you have any last curiosity or question or sentiment or anything else you want to share about what's going on before we wrap?
No, I think just thank you both so much for giving us the platform to talk about this and to share more about the why and the journey that we're excited to embark on from here. People can find us online. I know it'll be in the show notes, but I'll just say it here as well. If you're interested in any of our merch or one of our cocktail kits as Charlie made, you can find us at www.getzeroproof.com. You can also find us on social media at Get Zero Proof. We're on Instagram and TikTok, although even though we're millennial and Gen Z, our TikTok content is pretty funny to us. But
we're available. Hire us for your private events. If you need any support designing like cocktails or like a bar program or even a menu for like a baby shower, a dinner, we're here to support, and we're really invested and believe in this movement and giving access to non-alcoholic cocktails. So thank you so much for giving us this.
I love it. I'm so glad that you came on, and this was such a great conversation. Thanks to all of you, and we'll have to do it again sometime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.